Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We're flying solo as of the moment. Emilio will be joining us shortly. I know Tim and Jacob are out on assignment. We'll just say that. All right. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome day out there as it is hump day where it's all downhill from here, gang. Get into the rest of the week, get into the weekend. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every weekend that goes by, it seems like it starts to feel a little more like football season. We're going to have training camp coming up as obviously the quarterbacks, rookies, and injured players will report on Friday, I believe it is. So we'll get those guys in-house. And then, of course, I think it's the 22nd Veterans Report, 23rd, everybody out on the practice field that is healthy. Really, really excited. If you guys would hit that like button on the way in, feel free to sub if you're new here. Appreciate you making us a part of your evening and joining PTA. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We don't claim to be any of that. But we are fans just like you guys and gals out here talking about the Packers, diving into the tape, diving into the analytics, the statistics, and trying to figure out, okay, what happened? Why did it happen? And just following as closely along with the Green Bay Packers as we possibly can. So if you like that kind of content, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit that bell notification so you never miss a beat when we do go live for our live stream. So see everybody in the chat. Thank y'all so much for joining us this evening. Really, really appreciate it. Let's just dive into the topics of the evening. We're going to be doing Jordan Love Insight. We're going to be covering some of that, just some kind of off-the-wall statistics that I feel like might be important for us to dive into a little bit as we get ready for Jordan Love's third year as the starting quarterback here in Green Bay. We're also going to talk about the Packers free agent additions and subtractions. And if we got time, we're going to dive into a little Brenton Cox Jr. Chalk Talk. So we're going to break down some film tonight as well. I've seen a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people in the comments saying, hey, man, let's do another tape breakdown. So that's what we'll continue to dive into. Really, really excited about that. So let's waste no time. And like I said, Emilio will join us shortly, but let's get into Jordan Love Insights. All right. So I've seen a tweet come across, and this is from, I hope I'm saying this name correctly, Felipe Reyes Acetti. I hope I'm saying that right. Tweeted this out. Make sure you go give him a follow at ACETI_FELIPE. So at Acetti_Felipe, I think is how you say it. So this is cool. He says Jordan Love's 3.5% turnover-worthy play rate while facing pressure is the second lowest rate for a Packers quarterback in the last 10 seasons. Think about that. All right. And again, this tweet was it was tweeted out, or X was posted out on January the 2nd of this year. Okay. So this is legit from last season. Minimum 50 dropbacks. Okay. Jordan Love's 3.5% turnover worthy play rate while facing pressure. So again, pressure in his face. Okay. Whether or not he makes a turnover worthy play or not. All right. 3.5%. The second lowest rate for a Packers quarterback in the last 10 seasons. The only one with a lower turnover-worthy play rate was 2018 Aaron Rodgers at 2%. Pretty wild. Again, minimum of 50 dropbacks. So you're probably saying, well, Clayton, man, how do you have 11 interceptions, right? I think he might have had a fumble or two as well. I'm not 100% sure. Well, when I look at those plays, there's a handful of them, very, very minimal, in my opinion, and I'm not saying I'm right and anyone else is wrong. But in my opinion, there's a handful of those plays where it's like, you got to take a shot here, man. You got to try to make something happen. Like the one that comes to mind is the Philly game, the playoffs, where he takes the deep shot to Dontavion Wicks. Cornerback's got his back to the ball, gives Wicks a shot. Nothing else was really working for offense. As you guys know, the defense kind of held their own. The offense struggled in that playoff game, obviously with the offensive line becoming banged up as the game went on. But like that play, I don't chalk that up as a negative play. That's giving your guy a shot to go make a play. And the cornerback made one hell of a play. And if anything, I give an extra negative mark, not to pile on, but Dontavion Wicks not turning into a DB and batting that ball down, right? Just kind of let the cornerback make a play as the cornerback swiveled his head around at the last second and just made a heck of a play. So you got a couple of those, but don't get me wrong. There were several times where Jordan was just trying to do too much. And I don't want to continue to use this as an excuse, but in some of those plays, you could see, man, if Jordan was healthy, if Jordan had 2 healthy legs. And also he dealt with the nerve issue, I think, where he hit his elbow on a helmet, I believe it was, and he lost feeling in some of his fingers a little later in the season. There was at least 1 or 2 games that affected. He also had the groin injury, which I think was a byproduct of having to wear the brace for the knee injury he sustained in week 1. I say all that because it doesn't mean Jordan would have played perfect. And I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like Jordan would have went back to the back half of 2023 where he was just absolutely dominant. Literally a 9-game run that not even Aaron Rodgers ever did in Green Bay. That's wild to think about, statistically speaking. And again, half a season don't win you a Lombardi, right? You got to put the whole thing together. But the more time that goes by, and I've said all along here this year, Jordan Love's franchise quarterback. I believe that. I've heard enough people that I respect that's been around the game, whether they're former general managers, former coaches, people who coach now, former players. They go, that kid's, he's got it. He's a dude. So I think he's a franchise quarterback. However, the more we dive into the offseason, we see numbers like this from Felipe and some of the others we're going to get into a little bit. I'm more convinced now than I was at the end of the year that, yeah, Jordan's a dude. Jordan's a dude. And I think what we'll get is, I think we'll get away from that 11 interception season. And it may not be much. It might be 9. He may cut it down to 9. He may cut it down to 7, right? If he cuts it down to 7 and he flirts with 40 touchdowns on the year, he's going to be an MVP candidate. Whether he'll win it or not, who cares, right? I'm more interested in the Lombardi, but simply saying, I think he can clean that up. I think he can get that a little bit closer to the back half of 2023. And you take that with the receivers, hopefully, doing a better job of catching and securing the ball, right? I think you're going to put yourself in a position to be great this year. I really do. So I'm a believer in Jordan. I really am. Now, 12th in passer rating. Again, I'm running all these numbers through the filter of, this dude was basically playing on one leg, all year long. And I know there's some people that still kind of beat that drum and say, well, he was healthy by then. He was never healthy all year long. You could see him limping down the stretch of the final few games of the season as well. But he finished 12th in passer rating at 96.7. All right. Now, you guys know all along, I've kind of said too that I feel like he's top 15. I don't feel comfortable after last year, just slam dunk lock. He's a top 10 quarterback. But again, history suggests he is, because when he was healthy, he was playing like a top 3 quarterback at the end of the 2023 season. So with all that being said, finishing 12th, the passer rating when targeted, with a bad knee, a bad groin, and arm issues, obviously elbow issues, whatever you want to call it down the stretch, and playing with the, receivers. To the best of my knowledge, last I heard, they were either first or second in drops. Now, you guys know how I feel about the drops. Some people count drops that I don't think are drops. I mean, if the quarterback misses the target and the guy's got to lay out, I seen it again today, and I'm not going to shout anybody out. I'm going to try to stay calm today after we went off on ESPN Milwaukee yesterday and embarrassed myself. But the way when a receiver has to lay out for a pass, I'm sorry, I'm not counting that as a drop. That's an inaccurate throw, right? So you had some of that he needs to clean up as well. So if the receivers fix the drop issue, you're going to see that passer rating of Jordan Love where he finished 12th at 96.7. And by the way, look at Brock Purdy behind him at 96.1. You guys know how I feel about Brock Purdy. I think he's a great quarterback. Matthew Stafford at 15 at 93.7, right? What you're going to see with Jordan is I think you should see him crack into the hundreds and maybe even flirt with that 102, 103 range and get right up there around the top 5. I think he's got that in him. I really, really do, man. Really do. And I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat here, guys. I apologize when you're flying solo. I've said this 1,000 times. It's kind of hard to keep up with it, So appreciate everybody. I see the conversation going on in there. So next, 5th in yards per pass attempt. Now, what does that mean? It's exactly what it sounds like. These are the quarterbacks that were chucking the ball deep, right? So yards per pass attempt, now not necessarily chucking it deep, but per pass attempt, right? How many yards did you add? Every time you told your quarterback, throw the football, on average, how many yards did you gain? So this doesn't really have anything to do with air yards. I'm sure there's a lot of air yards involved in this statistic, but what it tells you is how not necessarily efficient. I guess efficiency is baked into that number too, but it's how dangerous were you as a quarterback? Because the object of the game, obviously, is to move the ball down the field. And when you're top 5 in yards per pass attempt, actually he was tied for 4th with Jalen Hurts. So the only players ahead of him, guys, was Jalen Hurts was tied with him, right? MVP candidate, Brock Purdy, who just got the bag, Jared Goff, and Lamar Jackson, who just absolutely lit it up. He was within 0.8 yards, right? Just a little less than a yard per pass attempt from being the best in the league in terms of yards per pass attempt. So he was very, very effective at moving the ball down the field in terms of yards per pass attempt. So I think that's an important statistic as well. Now let's go to EPA per dropback. You guys know expected points added. You can go look up the definition and try to study and understand exactly what it means. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain it. But an EPA per dropback, this is one of those advanced metrics that the reason I like EPA, and it was new to me a few years ago, is when I found out NFL teams are using it through SIS data, which is Sports Information Solutions. And I'm sure they use some other sources as well. But EPA is kind of that new thing that teams are really focused on because it tries to put everything on a level grading scale and really shows you how effective a player was or how ineffective a player was. So Jordan Love finished 13th at a positive 0.07 EPA per dropback. Guys, what that means is he was better than most, right? Like when you finish 13th in this metric today, in last season in 2024, that's telling me, okay, you're borderline top 10. The players above him, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Allen, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson. You know what all those quarterbacks have in common? Every single quarterback I just listed there, and I do put Baker Mayfield in that category too because he absolutely lit it up last year, 41 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Those are franchise quarterbacks and some of the most electric names you're going to hear in the game. You know, Sam Darnold had a great year last year. The reality is Jordan Love had a higher EPA per dropback than Sam Darnold. Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix, which, on a rookie scale, had a really good year, I think, as a rookie. I mean, he finished with 29 touchdowns, 12 picks, 3,700 yards. But Jordan Love, again, on one leg, well, with the bad knee, the bad groin, and the throwing arm, still finished at a plus 0.07, 13th in EPA per dropback. So diving into it again, like I said, I don't feel comfortable based off what we've seen last year saying he's a slam dunk top 10. If you make that argument, I can understand where you're coming from. I get it. But healthy, I think he's going to be closer to top 5. I really do. Moving along, deep pass attempt percentage. This was the number I was trying to get to a while ago when I was talking about this. So think about his completion percentage and his passer rating, right? All that stuff. His completion percentage was down a little bit. I think it was at 63.1%. Now, let me put that into perspective. Some people see 63% and they go, that's horrible, right? Look at Anthony Richardson at 47.7%. And he's the only quarterback that had a higher deep pass percentage than Jordan Love. Why do I mention that? Guys, he completed 63% of his passes while throwing 14.4% of the time he was throwing deep balls. So think about that. If he was just dink and dunk, whatever you call it, check down Charlie, like some of the, a good chunk of the offenses are in the NFL, there's no doubt in my mind his completion percentage would have been up there around 67, 68%. But the fact that he had 14.4% of his throws deep and still finished with a 63.1 completion percentage, that's where you kind of got to slow down and go, hey, all right. He must have been pretty darn effective. Now, who's to blame for those deep percentages? As if it's a bad thing when they connect, it's the greatest thing in the world. But when you don't succeed, we as fans are always complaining. But with the deep percentage, yeah, Matt LaFleur likes to be aggressive, but I got Emilio joining me now. We broke down the tape all year last year. Chalk Talks out there every single game. And there were several times where I remember saying, man, you got to check it down here. Look at this right here, guys. He got to the check down late and then decided to chuck it deep, right? Those are things that over time with more snaps being the starter, now this will be his third year under his belt, right? Going into his third year, I should say, as a starter. You're going to get better at that stuff. That's one of the few knocks I have on Jordan Love where I go, need to work on that. You got to get to the answer to the question a lot sooner and find those check downs when you don't feel comfortable taking those deep shots. Right. Amelia, I don't know how much you heard of what we just covered. I can scroll back up or what have you. Want to get your take on this, though, for sure. I'm just kind of pointing out some stats that a lot of times people don't mention. And for me, they're important, man. Just a quick little recap. 12th in passer rating. He was 5th in yards per pass attempt. You guys know how I feel about that. Big stat there. 13th in EPA per drop back, right? Deep pass attempt percentage, he was second in there. So what's your take on those numbers there, Emilio? Anything stick out to you, man?
Yeah, I love that he's able to push the ball down the field. But we have 425 attempts, so he's not going crazy on that, but he's able to get it done. Drop percentage, second highest, right? Anthony Richardson, tough. We watched that happen. He's kind of just chucking it up there to Pierce and hoping for something to happen, right? So I like that Matt can kind of scheme some of that. I love that he's right next to Josh Allen, another staple quarterback. Bills fans live off of Josh Allen, so the fact that Jordan's up there with him, I love that. And really the fact that he's closing in on the top 10. We talked about it last year. Like, he just never got the respect, but CJ Stroud was like the best quarterback ever, right? CJ Stroud was going to be a top 10. CJ had a bad second year. And then, let's start talking about maybe Jordan Love could be that next top 10. It's just like, he didn't get the respect then. Now he's starting to get a little bit of it, but I love that he's able to still move the ball down with the injuries. Didn't really make any complaints about it. Not like it's Matt's fault. Not like he'd be putting it on himself if there was any issues, right? Even if there was an injury, whatever, bad pass, that was on me. I should have made it easier for him to catch it, kind of thing. That's all we want in a leader and a quarterback.
Yeah, completely agree. So again, man, my conclusion here, and it's funny you mentioned Anthony Richardson chucking up to Alec Pierce, guys. Alec Pierce was the only wide receiver in the NFL that had a higher, with the minimal snaps, obviously, or attempts, I should say. He's the only receiver that had a higher yard per reception than Christian Watson. Christian Watson finished with a 21.4 yards per reception, and Alec Pierce, I think, finished at like 22.3 or somewhere around that range. So, like you said, compare his deep percentage throws, right? So what I'm saying is, like, Anthony Richardson threw it basically 6% more deep than Jordan, yet Christian Watson was right on the heels of Alec Pierce for having the most yards per reception. I can't wait to get Christian Watson back, man. Really.
Yeah, it's just taking better looks, taking better options. You're running the numbers in the game. He's running through all that in 3 seconds in his head. Which one's my best percentage of making this play happen? If he's not open, where am I putting this thing?
Exactly.
And I just love that he has that processing speed now and working on the little footwork, all those little things. I'm excited to see. I'm sure he took that from Aaron. What's the one thing you worked on this year? This offseason, let's kind of see some of that stuff. Excited for the first interview.
Yeah. So again, just a little bit different look at Jordan Love, and that's why I feel more confident after going through all the deep analytics and everything. I feel more confident in Jordan Love being able to take a step forward this year than I did, really coming into this last couple of weeks. Not that I was down on him, but it's just like, yeah, he was banged up. I think he's going to be just fine. So there you go. A little Jordan Love talk. Let's jump into some free agency talk here, Emilio, if you don't mind.
Let's do it.
I like to do this whenever we add players in free agency. I like to kind of look at, some people will say, did they make their team better? Or look at who they signed, and that's all they'll focus on. But they won't focus on who they lost as well. So, like, you'll hear the signings that, like, Detroit made this year, right? And I heard somebody earlier today, I can't remember what sports talk it was there locally in Wisconsin, but somebody had said something along the lines of Detroit took everybody in the North took a step forward other than Green Bay. And they said Detroit took a step forward. I'm going, how did Detroit take a step forward? Somebody help me with this. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. Would you be willing to bet the farm that Aiden Hutchinson's going to be better this year than he was previously before the injury?
No.
I wouldn't. Okay. Would you be willing to say that the offensive line is in a better shape without Frank Ragnow than previously?
I'm going to say no to that one as well.
You see what I'm saying? And on top of that, they won. What'd they win? They win 14 games or 15 games?
15, right? They
had
one more than the Vikings.
Yeah. So if they won 15 games last year and you're saying they took a step forward, then you got to be telling me you think they're going to win 16 games. Bet the farm on that, Hosscat.
Right.
Nobody's willing to do that. So stop blowing smoke as if they took this step forward. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, too. They also lost Ben Johnson. Do you think that helps them or hurts them?
Right. Just because the offensive coordinator is coming from the same, coaching tree or whatever, he was under Ben Johnson does not mean absolutely anything compared to what this team could be this year. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way you can say that he's going to bring that same heat of Ben Johnson. He could call games differently. He could see things differently. And then him transferring from whatever he was before, passing game coordinator, run game coordinator, whatever. Now you're worried about the whole offense. You're worried how the O-line's moving. You're worried about, your quarterback. All these things that it's an unknown at this point.
It really is, man. It really is. So again, I think they took a step. We didn't even mention Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, a great defense.
Don't even need to, because the offense has already got enough stuff going on over there that Dan Campbell better step up this year. Absolutely.
All right, so here are the free agency additions and subtractions. I like how PFF set this up. So if you could see this, okay. It's showing the 2026 assets for next year. Cap space $35.5 million for the Packers. That is fifth most in the league. Okay. Now, additions / re-signings. Okay. Aaron Banks, and these are just top three against the top three. All right. Aaron Banks was the 72nd ranked, according to PFF, free agency that was a free agent that was available. Mecole Hardman was the 114th ranked free agent available. And Nate Hobbs was the 85th ranked free agent available. Okay. Now, who did we lose? We lost Eric Stokes, who they seen as the 188th ranked free agent, Josh Myers, who was 129th, and TJ Slayton, who was 201. Now, whether you agree with those rankings or not, I haven't seen any other free agency rankings. This is just easy to grab off PFF's site. But when you look at the net gain there, think about this. Aaron Banks in place of Josh Myers. You went from 129 and improved to 72. I don't know how many, what would that be? Roughly 47 spots. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So you improved there, and we know he's not going to be playing center. Elton's going to play center, but that's the trade-off there. You traded Eric Stokes for Nate Hobbs. Eric Stokes was 188th on their ranking in free agency. Nate Hobbs is 85th. So you jumped 100 spots there. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then TJ Slayton, obviously we're not going to compare apples to apples here with Mecole Hardman. A little bit different body build there. You know what I'm saying?
They're pretty similar. TJ slimmed down a little bit.
I think Mecole Hardman could play zero tech, right? I think he can.
Oh, yeah. Everybody did back in Pee Wee, Clay. I mean, you had the nose guard was always like 20 pounds, man. You just tell him to get in there.
Exactly. So TJ Slayton was 201st, and everybody's looking at Mecole Hardman like that signing was just chopped liver. Mm-hmm. They had him ranked 114th, better than any of the players that we lost. So the point is, according to PFF, and again, it's not the gospel. You guys know how I feel about it. My goodness, man, you improved tremendously in free agency.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a positive across the board. No matter how you're kind of looking at the numbers, even if you didn't go off that rankings, I'm sure you could pull some of the pass block sets. I'm sure you could pull some coverage stats, from Eric Stokes versus Nate Hobbs. So beyond just looking at the ranking numbers, you could kind of back that up with some data. It's just like you said, we're not going to go digging that up just to build it for this. But looking at what Goody did is, hey, we're moving in a positive direction. We're always trying to get better. You don't, sometimes you don't need to pay top dollar. Sometimes you do. And right. Sometimes you have to move on from somebody. Like, look at Eric Stokes, first round pick, Josh Myers, second round pick. Right. So you have to be able to move on from either your mistakes or things that just didn't work out that you had previously decided on.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because you guys know I say that all the time. I say the only thing worse than making a bad draft pick is refusing to admit you made a bad draft pick.
Right.
Goody turned the corner here. He realized Josh Myers was a bad pick, Eric Stokes was a bad pick, and it'd be real easy to try to kind of reaffirm that, hey, I made the right decision, so I'm going to re-sign these guys, because that is a lot. You'll look 5-10 years down the road. 10's a little long. You'll look 5 years down the road and go, how good was this draft class? Well, they're no longer on the roster, right? So it's easy to try to get some current praise by re-signing someone as if, no, he's better than we think he is. So you got to tip your cap to Goody for lowering the ego and saying, hey, we missed on these guys. I think that's right. Absolutely huge. CJN in the chat says, watched a certain podcast the other day, and they were saying that Aaron Banks' addition wasn't that big of a deal because he wasn't that good. I think I heard the same pod, CJN. And how do we what are they gauging it off of? You know what I mean? Like, wait, I try to put myself in people's shoes, and I can't remember how many sacks Aaron Banks allowed. You guys might know the number right offhand, but it was that was one of the statistics. Like, dang, he didn't allow hardly any sacks. And you look at a guy that obviously they're wanting to get bigger, much bigger than they have in the past. PFF has him at 6'5", 325. I heard some people say he's 6'6". I don't know. But you seem to be going larger with this new offensive line, drafting Anthony Belton and then going with Aaron Banks. So you're kind of going to that bully ball mode with duo and what Philly likes to do with that bigger offensive line as well. But, I mean, when you look at what he did last year, a 65.4, that's a solid grade in PFF. That's basically, if I remember correctly, that's above average. So you're saying, okay, he's an above average left guard, and they feel like they can get more out of it. That's what it comes down to. So what it tells me is they had a big draft grade on him coming out when he came out in the draft. Because that's the first thing that these general managers do when a player's available in free agency. As you guys know, they'll immediately go back to their draft grades. Here's the grade we had on him. Then they go watch the tape of him in the NFL. Oh, we can work with that. Or, nah, we missed on that. We have no interest in it.
You ready for his numbers?
Let's hear it, man.
775 offensive snaps, 54th out of 136. Penalties, 5, 91st out of 136. That I would like cleaned up a little bit. I was harping on penalties last year, so we need to clean that up. Sacks allowed, 1. 51st out of 136. So obviously he's going to be, sandwiched in with a bunch of other people. But 1 sack. I mean, so you're how many did Josh Myers give up? Do we not remember chalk talking when Josh Myers pulled right and then looped back around and was just in the turnstile looking at Jordan like, wow, dude, what a throw.
Yeah, exactly, man. So I thank you for pulling up. I didn't want to misspeak, but I thought it was 1 sack was all he allowed. So thank you for looking that up. Andy Monday in the chat said the Banks critics need to consider the context of replacing Myers with Jenkins, plus the Banks injury was noticeable. So there you go. Holmes MD 1. Yeah, Banks balled before he got hurt. So again, I think this is a significant upgrade over Josh Myers.
Right.
I really do.
And to the Banks injury, like, okay, where we say that Goody doesn't take shots on, people with injuries, bam. I mean, you signed a guy after an injury. It's just the fact that maybe we gave Josh too many shots. It's so you're just kind of looking at everything with a grain of salt when you're kind of taking a step back before the season. Like, all right, you had to do it. You had to move on from Josh. You brought in Aaron Banks. Okay, now we need to find a center. You got to move on from Josh Myers. Like, these just processes that have to happen.
Yeah. Chase Green says, Clayton, I want to pull and guard on counter. If he is okay in pass pro, that is all right. Jacobs on counter plays can produce. And there were several clips. I remember when we signed Aaron Banks, there were people pulling some tape. And that'd be a fun one to try to – if we're running out of time, camp's pretty much here. But I remember seeing him downfield. I do.
Yeah.
He's a big old boy. Could you imagine 6'5", 325 pounds running at you full sprint?
Linebackers are out there like,
get ready to go.
They're like, get ready to go home. I ain't trying to hit this big hog mile. Lord have mercy. As Holmes says, pin and pull. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, moving along. Mecole Hardman. Look at these PFF grades, man. This surprised the heck out of me. Starting in 2019, these are his career PFF grades. 68, 69, 70, 68, 2023, 55. However, minimal snaps there. It looks like he got banged up. And then last year he got hurt as well. 72.8 before he got hurt. How many snaps did he play last year? Where's that total snaps up? It looked like it's about, 100? The way they got him lined up here. Backfield, not slot. So he was in the slot 43 times. He was out wide 64 times, inline 1, backfield 6. So you're looking at about 70 to 80 snaps he got last year. So it's not like a extremely low sample size. It would be different if it was 20 snaps, 30 snaps. But he's still playing. I mean, that's the highest grade he's had of his entire career so far. We know he's a speed demon. He can contribute on special teams. I love this because it gives you another option. For me, get Jayden Reed off the return team. He's too valuable at the F position. And let's let Mecole Hardman become the return guy and obviously a speed guy who can play F. We've seen that kind of their slot role, their moving Z up there in Kansas City, or down there in Kansas City, I should say. And you've also seen him take the top off of defenses as well. I like this signing. Guys, you're talking about minimal cap hit too. The veteran minimum, to the best of my knowledge. So really like this signing here.
Looking at his snaps, looks like he had 74 pass snaps with 14 targets, 72 routes runs, leading with 12 receptions. So 90 receiving yards. My only worry, Clay, on McCall is just the run blocking. I just don't know if Matt's going to trust him to do all that stuff. But like you said, if it's maybe a special teams thing, or maybe he just, hey, I want to, I'm fine with blocking. If you're adamant, if you want to do it, cool. It's just when you kind of get run over and it kind of messes up the play, that's the issue. But if you're out there and willing, man, I'm totally fine with it.
And we seen Bo Melton play a little backup F last year when Jaden got hurt. And there's other players that can do it. Wicks can do it. It's not ideal. Watson can do it. He did his whole rookie year, but Watson's banged up. The one that doesn't ever do it is Romeo Dobbs. They just stuff him over at the X and kind of let it go.
Do your thing.
So I'm not as concerned with the run blocking, Emilio, if he plays F when Jaden Reed maybe kicks out the Z. But
I'm just saying in the aspect of like too many, like we're only keeping him like 74 out of his, or 72 out of his 74 were routes run. Like I just don't want it to be a, if like we're bringing Musgrave out there, we're passing the ball kind of thing. That's what I don't want it to turn into with McCall.
That makes sense. And for me too, when you kind of look at it, it's what I was getting at is like, it feels like he's probably going to be the reason that Bo Melton doesn't make the roster, or Bo Melton is going to be the reason he doesn't make the roster. Right. Does that make sense? So that's kind of that backup F role type thing, especially if they try to really start to work Wicks in at boundary X a little bit more. And listen, man, I'm still not ruling out that Romeo Dobbs might be traded. I mean, it got leaked out. They were trying to trade him this offseason, right? So that's still kind of on the table. But I can't help but grin thinking, who's behind these guys? Oh, wait, they're not behind them. They're in front of them. Right. Matthew Golden. You know what I mean? Like, you forget that we freaking drafted a first-round wide receiver. And I get excited because we've seen what receivers who Goody drafted in the second round has done. Mm-hmm. Christian Watson, dog, Jaden Reed.
And they wanted to get Christian Watson in the first, right? It just didn't work out. So it's not like it's not like he wasn't willing to. It just didn't work out. But here, all right, now the first-round tag is on him. So everybody expects 100 times more out of him. I just want him to tear it up. I mean, he seems like a genuine dude. We were watching that fishing video after the pod last night. Dude, just super genuine, you know what I mean? So, love that.
A lot, man. What I like the most about Matthew Golden as a person, I relate to this. Listen, I'm not trying to get preachy. I'm a Christian. That doesn't mean I'm holy or anything better than anybody else. It means I need some help. I'm an idiot. I'm a knucklehead. I screw up every day. I need some grace. All right, that's what that means. But Matthew Golden will post scripture and stuff, he'll tweet that out or Instagram it out.
Love that.
And then he'll be working on his craft, and I'm telling you, he sounds like a heathen. He F this, F that. He's like just so focused on the work. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's right. Some could say it's somewhat hypocritical. I relate to that because it's an everyday battle for me to try to be a little bit better person.
Right.
And to hear him have that fire and then try to turn it off, and he's going and taking kids shopping for shoes down in Texas, and he's out on the boat fishing with Barron Sorrell, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I think he's going to be a good fit. I would be very, very surprised if we look up in 3 years and go, man, we missed on Matthew Golden. I think he's probably going to be a contributor. So,
can't wait.
Right. Moving along, Nate Hobbs, another addition here, and I added Isaiah Simmons in too. We'll get to it. So Nate Hobbs, a little bit different story, right? Not as consistent, although he's never graded out less than a 60. So his rookie year, his best year by far, 80.1. 2022, it was a 60. Then he jumps to a 69. Last year, he falls back to a 61. Now, I want to point out his passer rating when targeted. If he had been on the Green Bay Packers last year, he would have had the second best passer rating when targeted, only behind Carrington Valentine. He had a better passer rating when targeted than Jair Alexander. So if you're just looking at strictly passer rating when targeted, you improve there. Now, I know it's a different style of player. They've got him listed at 6'1", 195 here on PFF. He's probably going to be our starting slot corner, our nickelback, and then he's going to go kick outside in our base defense. So with Nate Hobbs, I think they're going to try to get what he showed his rookie year. And if I remember correctly, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Rich Bisaccia was the coach that year, the interim coach. You guys fact check me on that, but I think I heard somebody talking about that. So if you just get him up into the upper 60s, you understand what I'm saying? Right. That would be a nice little improvement there as well. And what wasn't on that list in terms of the net gain that we talked about, let me just say it was a positive net gain of plus 247. I'm well aware Jair Alexander wasn't on that list because these metrics came out before Jair was cut, released, or what have you. So you're going to lose some spots there. There's no doubt about it. However, I don't think anybody's trying to pretend like Jair is a solid number one cornerback based off what we've seen the last few years. Like it's not like he's elite Jair Alexander. And you guys know I wanted him back on the team for St. Philly. So just wanted to point that out. I'm not trying to skew the numbers and go, oh, yeah, he conveniently left out Jair Alexander's departure. It is a hit. There's no doubt about it. But when you look at what Nate Hobbs has done, I think we're going to get the best out of this dude. I really do, man. And I'm really excited about Carrington Valentine locking up that right cornerback spot. So
absolutely. And so we had his total snaps 554 last year, so more than Ja. But his season stats, 39 solo tackles, 73rd out of 222. Interceptions, he had 1, 42nd out of 222. Pressures, 3, and receptions allowed 31. That puts him at 77. So he's right around that, second, third corner, slot corner, wherever he is. I think that's a totally fair spot. I'm almost thinking they might not even move him outside in the base there and just kind of leave Carrington and Keyshawn where they're at. Maybe rotate all three of those on a rotation just to keep them fresh. Because if you're running extra roam the whole time, running those streaks, you're going to get gassed at some point. Let's not make a mistake out there because you're dog tired, hanging your head. You just don't want to come out for a snap. Let's keep everybody fresh. I think that's a power move there.
Definitely. H.E. Solder in the chat says Hobbs was only good because of Max Crosby. This is sarcasm, of course. And then who was it that said at home said Max Crosby? So CJN says, imagine if all these free agents come in and play to their best ability. OMG. Tim, I have no reason to believe that Goody don't know what the heck he's doing in free agency, man, because that dude, he is hit. Boy, oh boy, is he hit. I mean, we talked about Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney yesterday, and go back to when he signs Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, and Adrian Amos. All three of those solid contributors, starting players, went out and balled out, and they have one of the best defenses they had in a long time. Granted, it was under Mike Pettin at the time, but I'm very, very confident in Goody's ability to sign these free agents. And I think he may not hit on all of them, but if he hits on one or two, defense is going to be better. No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's almost like our GM knows what he's doing, right? Who would have thought?
Exactly. So this was interesting here. No Zach says, we like Zach. We want Zach. We mean no Zach. The issue with Hobbs, he's been injured as much as Ja. That's simply not true, Zach. He has not been as injured as Ja. Ja has played less than 50% of the snaps in the last 3 years. And last year, how many snaps did Ja have? Was it in the 300s, Emilio?
Yeah,
well,
I want to say it was like 320 or 350, something like that.
You said Nate Hobbs cracked 500 last year, right?
550.
Yeah. The year before, I want to say he played 700 snaps.
The year before, he played 775. And the year before that, we have him at 667. So, I mean, he is north of 500, looks like every year. In 2021, his best year, he was 837. So, this past year at 550 was his lowest snaps played in a season.
Yeah. And, Zach, no disrespect, man. I'm not saying that he's been healthy every snap. I understand what you're getting at, but it's not comparable to Ja's situation. It got to the point where Ja was just not available ever. So, Isaiah, and the other frustrating part with that too, guys, and the reason they wanted to structure the contract the way they did rather than a roster bonus, they wanted a game-by-game bonus kind of scenario there with Ja, is because there were times they felt like he was healthy and he felt like he wasn't. And then, it's like the Chicago game. I believe it was the Chicago game. They activate him, right? Okay, Ja's active. He's good to go. He played like 10 snaps. Then he had to be pulled because he was still hurt. Well, guess what? I'm not trying to be, insensitive here, but now you're down a hat. You're down a hat at the cornerback position. You could have activated someone. It's not about is that player better than this player, but now you've got to really control the personnel in which you put on the field, and it shakes up your special teams as well. So it does come into play big time.
In that 2021 season, he had 54 solo tackles and 9 pressures. 9 pressures put him second out of 238 corners that year. So I think that slot is going to be huge, man. I think it really is.
And the other one here, the wild card, in my opinion, Isaiah Simmons. Listen, he's a physical freak. He was drafted, 8th overall there in the 2020 draft. They said he could play safety, corner, and edge rusher. Now, I call BS on a lot of that, obviously. But nonetheless, he's
That's
never
the problem.
been
They haven't found a spot for him to play.
right. It's kind of like the whole Bill Parcells quote, right? If you got two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. You know what I mean? If you got two starting quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. With Isaiah Simmons, though, I think they're really going to let him settle in and play stack backer. So his PFF grades, though, 59, 49, 67, 68, and then he was banged up last year, it looks like. I don't know how many snaps he played last year. Let's see if we get a total there. 37, 170-some snaps. So he was banged up last year. So before he got hurt last year, the previous 2 years, you're talking about a 67, then he improved to a 68. So you're seeing that significant, kind of that ascension that we talked about. And him having to wear multiple hats, and that's his words, not mine. He's really excited about finally getting to settle into playing one position, which is going to be stack backer in this defense. I would not be surprised at all if he completely passes up Isaiah McDuffie on the depth chart. And if he beats out Tyron Hopper, too, and he's the third best linebacker, put him on the field, man. Put him on the field. Now, there's always a chance, too, here, Tim, that he may get cut. He may not make the roster, right? Same thing with Mecole Hardman. But I think based off of what you got there in the bang for your buck in terms of another minimum contract, we talked about Goody going out and get two high-profile free agents spending pretty big money, right? And we talked about him drafting a wide receiver in the first round for the first time in 23 years or whatever it was. And then on top of that, he went out and got a couple bargain bin free agents as well. So no one can sit here and say Goody is
Isaiah Simmons and it's so true, man. Like, I think that goes under the radar, right? Isaiah Simmons acquisition, that's probably one of Goody's more under the radar moves. Bringing in Aaron Banks was huge for our O-line. There's another great free agent move. So, Goody gets a lot of heat, and I don't understand why. I think Simmons is a great signing. I think Mecole Hardman's a great signing. And like you said, time will tell if they make this team. But bottom line, man, you're making yourself better, and that's what you want your GM to do.
Definitely. Deadfish says Simmons had a 4.39 40, and as Holmes pointed out, Simmons is the fastest backer in that room, and it's not even that close. I mean, think about that. He is faster than Edgerrin Cooper. He's faster than Quay, both physical freaks, So going to be interesting, man. So, again, that's just kind of a quick little recap just to show net gain in free agency minus Jair Alexander, but pretty significant what we did there. We improved from Josh Myers to Aaron Banks from 129th ranked free agent to 72nd. You improved from Eric Stokes being the 188th cornerback. You pick up Nate Hobbs at 85. Again, this doesn't include Jair Alexander, but get some kind of echo there, boys. Somebody's side. Must have been you, Tim. Yeah, see you muted there. You see a significant improvement, in my opinion, on the players they lost and the players they picked up. So, anything else on the free agent talk?
Even to Isaiah Simmons, just the last point from last year, he had 181 snaps, 14 solo tackles. That's just shy of 13% of the time he's getting a solo. He had under 200 snaps. He got 14 tackles. I love that, and he forced a fumble, which put him 15th out of 189 backers. So out of, just shy of 200 snaps, you'd had basically 15 tackles and a forced fumble. I love that. I mean, you're around the ball, you're active, you don't care. That's where we need you to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's going to do it for hour one. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour two, where we're going to break down a little film study on our boy Brenton Cox Jr. We'll see you on the other side. Appreciate you.